What's up, everybody? This is Ralph. This is Infinite Source Talk again. We doing episode 2, and this time is going to be on relationships. And the reason why we're talking about relationships is because father issues, a lot of those issues, what we was talking about in that first episode, and they go into from not healing or not recovering from father issues, and it seeps through into relationships. And the reason I'm talking about relationships is because my cousin hit me today, and I'm gonna have him on here, because he wants to talk about his story and everything. And actually, I asked a couple questions and everything because he heard the pod, he heard everything, he heard what I said about the whole situation about the first episode and all that stuff, and he was like, "Bro, we need to ask questions." So I'm gonna have him on here and everything just so that we can unpack a lot of things, in terms of relationships, in terms of life in general, in terms of how to handle things. That first episode was a broad aspect of father issues. And my pod is not going to be about father issues all the time, but it's just the one topic that man chose that has branches, that has many different aspects that people can understand and learn from, because that foundation of learning from your parents and what they give you, that goes into branches, many different aspects of how you handle things, whether it's relationships, whether it's friendships, whether it's situations that arises. There's so many things that can come from your parents, from where you grew up at, like those teachings that you've learned from, let's say, single parent, both parents, any type of situation that you was in, your reaction and the way that you handle things come from a certain place of where you came from. So the reason I thought about relationships was because when my cousin was talking about wanting to unpack the first episode, the first thing that came up to my mind was like, okay, if I have these type of issues that I recognize and overcame and everything like that, where did it spill into? Where did it go and affect people? And the first thing that I thought of was relationships. So here we are. We are going to go into the aspects of relationships from the foundation of father or mother issues. I'm not going to leave out the mothers. And like I said, it's a different topic. It's a different aspect that we can go into later on in terms of mother issues and everything like that. But it's usually father issues. So we're going to go into father issues that can affect relationships. And in this instance, what I'm going to do is reiterate exactly what I said the first episode. There are 5 steps from what I know and outlined and kind of follow in the aspect of doing. And those steps: recognize that you have an issue, forgive yourself and forgive the other person that did the transgression to you, healing and taking action, and then breaking and curse. Now, I want to remind you about the first two. Now, the reason I'm saying the first two is because people don't, like I said in the first one, people don't pass these two. They don't recognize and they don't forgive, which my cousin kind of hit me with the, yo, you need to tell people how you forgave your pops. How did you do that? And I'll go into a whole different topic. Like I said, that first episode had plenty of factors that you can break down and everything like that. But most people in this scenario of father issues, mother issues, any type of core issues that they come from their past, from their upbringing, don't recognize that they have an issue. So a lot of human beings walk around having these issues and never resolving it, or never going through life to learn why they are a certain way. They're just like, you know what? I'm the way I am. And that's perfectly fine. People can live how they want to. It's just the fact of, are they happy enough for how they are living? So a lot of times they're not. And the reason why they are not is because they don't recognize that they have an issue. So they're out here walking around diddy bopping like nothing's wrong, like everything is cool, woo, 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 and there's something wrong. And usually there's people that's outside of your circle or in your circle or anything like that that's going to tell you about yourself. And the biggest issue is that we have to recognize ourselves for if there's something wrong. And if there is, we have to do something about it. We have to look and deep inside and see exactly what's going on. But they don't even get there. So a lot of times they don't even recognize they got an issue. They're like, yeah, I'm good. I'm valid. I could do this and that. I could talk to my shorty any type of way. I could talk to this man any type of way. And they don't know that they're wrong about that. So a lot of times somebody from the outside telling you what it is, you can be like, nah, I'm good. And that's why people, when I stated on the first episode, I said people cannot recognize their own issues because they are so programmed to think that they know life in general. And they just walk around that their aspect in life is right and the other person is wrong. For example, and I'll give you a perfect example. I am in the car insurance industry. Cannot disclose my company, obviously, because, contracts and all that shit. But I investigate these situations. I investigate accidents, all that type of stuff. And when I do investigate them, most people think that they're right. That, for example, somebody makes a left turn. Why did this person T-bone me? And a lot of times, the person that made the left turn, seeing the person come towards them, still decided to make the left turn, thinking that the person that's coming straight is supposed to yield to them turning. And a lot of times that's not correct. But people think that they're correct because they was like, I'm turning. You should see me. You should be like, let me have a courtesy of letting you go because I've seen you. Because I'm thinking that I'm making a turn. You're seeing me. And a lot of times the person that's coming straight has to avoid your ass because you think that you're in the right of making a turn. That's a whole nother ball game. That's just probably another topic about driving and certain things that I'll probably talk about too. But that's one example. One example is driving. Everybody has their own way of driving and they learn whether they're defensive, and they have different terms for this: defensive, aggressive, racing. Like, they have so many different aspects of driving, and everybody thinks that they're right. So a lot of times when they don't recognize that they're wrong in certain situations, they won't think that they're wrong. They're just going to be like, well, they messed up. I did what I had to do. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times when people don't recognize, and like I said, they don't even pass part 1 or part 2 because they won't even recognize that they're wrong. So they live life and they go about it in a way where they're like, you know what? All right, that's me. They're going to have to deal with it. And that's usually a wrong way of living. And so they carry these things into a relationship. And a lot of times they don't budge in terms of learning their partner. Usually it's more of a compromise where we learn each other hand in hand. But most people that don't recognize, like I said, part 1, they don't recognize, they will compromise in certain things, but we'll try to make sure that they can control the situation. Or something that'll benefit them, they'll go with that. And then when they go deeper into a relationship with somebody, will try to go hand in hand and try to work themselves out. You become stubborn when you don't recognize these things. And then your original ways seep through the relationship and the person sees exactly who you are. So a lot of times people that don't recognize their own issues and traumas and everything bring those into relationships. And when they do, the other person gets affected by that. And it's a whole different cycle. It's a process where one learns from one another, realizes that they're stuck in the situation, and then won't even pass from part 1 because the other person won't recognize that they have an issue. So a lot of times it's a back and forth game, and it's a game of no winning. It's a game of no return. And eventually the relationship crumbles. And a lot of times the only way that you could save that relationship is going and recognizing that there is an issue. So if you don't pass part 1, which is recognize, these things happen. And that's only part 1. So some people do recognize it, but recognize it in a sense of, oh, I do have an issue. We might fix it, but they don't wholeheartedly do it. And this goes into part two, which like I said, we talked about it in the initial episode. We talked about forgiveness. And with forgiveness, even I'm guilty of this, because a lot of times I can recognize that there was an issue, but I let love dictate me and blind me to where I didn't even work on the forgiveness part. I was like, yo, we can fix this just off of love alone. And that is the worst thing you can do, because in that situation, you're just living off of infatuation. You're just living off of feelings and emotions. And that usually crashes quickly. And sometimes the more painful stuff is usually when you drag it on and you charge all mistakes on love. And usually that does not work at all. It actually damages not only yourself, but you actually damage the person a lot more, because they thinking that you're working on part two, which is forgiveness. But in actuality, you're actually charging the mistakes to love. And you're like, okay, I'm not working on it. I just love her. She's toxic. I just love her. She hits me. I just love her. She beats me. I just love her. That's usually how it goes. And it gets to a point where it's toxic. And in those situations, you're not going to win no matter what. And it's just not a winning or losing game. It's just the matter of getting a better relationship, learning with each other. But if you can't learn with each other, you can't forgive another person, or you can't even forgive yourself for the stuff that you've done, then there's no reason why you should be dragging a person into that relationship or into that love, because you're selfish enough to be like, you know what? I'm me. I come with baggage, but you gotta love me anyway. There's a lot of people that do that. Trust me when I say it. There's a lot of people that go through life living like that. So if you can't forgive another person for transgressions, and we're not even talking about relationships, we're talking about people in general. So if you can't forgive people in terms of what they've done with our relationships, for example, you can't forgive somebody ate your sandwich when you was at work. You left your sandwich in the refrigerator. You went because it's a cold sandwich. You left it there. You working. You doing your thing. You come back. Somebody ate your shit, and you found out who it was. If you can't forgive them for that type of pettiness, that type of little crime, even though it's a crime where it's the person does not give a fuck about you, and the person actually was like, I'm hungry, I'm apologizing to throw somebody's sandwich, obviously lying or whatever the case is, or having a legit reason why they did that shit, because they didn't have money for food, or there's a situation that's going on, and if they broke that down to you, you're still gonna be like, yo, you should have told me, bro. I could have brought you a sandwich. I could have done something for you. You know what I'm saying? Or obviously you take actions into your own hands, whether you want to deal with it, whether you want to smack somebody, whether you want to hit somebody, whether you just want to report somebody that ate your sandwich and it's stealing, and they get let go because that's stealing. Like, but if you hold on to stuff like that, and you hold on a grudge to a point where it affects you internally, whether you're doing actions subconsciously to hit people or make people pay because they did that shit, then there's an issue with you. So I'm not excusing anybody that steals sandwiches. I'm not excusing anybody that transgresses against you. I'm not doing that. What I'm saying is, yes, people will violate. People will do stupid shit against you. People will lie. People will. Humans are like that. We just are programmed to do stupid shit sometimes. And in that situation, it depends on who you do the stupid shit to. And that measures love. And this is a whole different topic, but I just want to go back into forgiveness. So some people will tell you they love you, and the amount of love that they have is the amount of transgression they might commit to you. Let's say, for example, you tell somebody that you love them dearly, but then you try to talk to their girlfriend, or, break bro code, or, try to do something that's very treacherous. And people in that sense, like, will go as far as they need to. And that's the amount of love that they show. But that is basically on their situation, on their side. They decided to do that. They didn't bring that gift to you. Well, I was explaining in the original episode. They bring that gift to you. And then it's up to you if you want to accept it or not. So that gift in general, somebody brings somebody treacherous to you, you accept it or not. And that is where hand in hand forgiveness for yourself goes into play. Because if somebody did you dirty and everything like that, obviously there is a chance or a activation of your mind and soul to be like, should I forgive this person? Then there is a thought process where, okay, if I accept this gift, I have every right to be his ass, or I have every right to do this and the fourth. But should I? And if I do that, what consequences do I face if I do X, Y, and Z? And that's where forgiveness for yourself comes in. Because you can let it go. You don't have to treat them the same. You don't have to fuck with them ever again. You know what I'm saying? But like, that's where forgiveness for yourself comes in. Where somebody brings you that gift of treasury to your doorstep. And from your doorstep, you look at it like an Amazon package and like, damn, should I take this shit or not? And if I don't take it, bro, you got it, bro. But you know how much strength that takes for somebody to be like, yo, you know what? You did me dirty. I forgive you because you don't know better. But I forgive myself because I'm not doing the punishment that I'm supposed to do to you. But that takes strength and knowledge to know that. And most people won't even consider forgiving the other person. They rather hold on to that gift and just keep going with life without fixing it. So it's either forgiving the other person for their transgressions or forgiving yourself for taking the gift and accepting it and reacting in a way that is not you, that you know that is not right. So a lot of times we have to forgive ourselves too. So those two parts, in that sense, is what people fail on in terms of relationships. And and that's not even the start of a relationship. That's the beforehand. And then they fail that part. They fail part one, which is recognize, and part two, which is forgive. And then they go into relationships. And they take that trauma and subconsciously take certain actions where they're doing things they're normally not supposed to do in a relationship. And this is what happens. When you fail recognizing and you fail forgiving, these things happen. You become machista. You become more dominant. You become like more toxic in certain situations. And you don't know that because subconsciously this is coming out your pores. This is coming out your soul. And you don't even notice it because you can't fix your issues. And that's what a lot of people go through. So a lot of people will skip healing and go 1 and 2 and diddy bop into another relationship without recognizing, forgiving. So part 3 doesn't even exist because the healing process, you're not even going through that. You're just taking action. And that's taking action is not the action where you're fixing yourself. That taking action is releasing what you have inside and affecting the other person, which is super unfair for anybody. So in those situations where you're taking your roots of your issues and you're spreading it across to another person, is very toxic, very problematic. For example, I know people that their situations were very messed up, especially young. Certain traumatic experiences where their father not being there. Then when they go to relationships, they either become very demanding of the other person or very toxic, or certain things that they do, they accept as normal behavior. And we know that it's weird behavior on the outside looking in, but they think it's normal. They think it's something that is part of relationships because the original problem was never recognized. I know people that don't want to go through steps to learn themselves, and then they become very harsh towards people. And it comes to a way where they just like, this is the way that I am. You're going to accept it or not. And in those situations, that's problematic towards anybody that gets to know that person. Or it's problematic towards anybody that even be in a relationship with that type of person. So let me give you more concrete examples. So some men in situations like these, when they don't have a father figure or somebody that can guide them to have a better life, to become successful and everything like that. Some dudes don't have father figures, And then they go through life learning their experiences themselves. So a lot of times it's not somebody to correct them or somebody to be like, yo, I don't think this is the right thing to do. So they become toxic. They start yelling at people. They start yelling at their loved ones. They start acting crazy. They start going through situations where cops get involved or people get involved and there's verbal abuse, sometimes even physical abuse. I've seen this shit before. And it's almost like if it's considered normal. And to me, and I think most of the general population is gonna be like, no, that's not normal. You bugging. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, and they'll go through life diddy bopping like nothing happened after that. And they'll still repeat the same things with different people. And this is men. I'm seeing situations where some men are like that. They're like, yo, I did it with this person. Cool. This next person is going to accept me for who I am. I'm going to find the person that's going to handle the most. And they ride around like that, like nothing's wrong. I know people that don't have either father or mother, whatever the case is. Then, and when they get into relationships, a lot of people suffer infidelity issues. Because if there is one thing that's lacking, then they resort to somebody that has more affection or more love in their mind than their relationship they're in, and they escape to that. And then that's when the infidelity begins, because they was never taught from the beginning about a relationship, because they lived in whether it's a single parent household, whether it's a situation that you particularly don't want to be in. There are different situations where we go through that. And then when we try to explore life and get into a relationship with somebody, we kind of repeat that conduct. And this is where I said forgiveness comes in, because we have to forgive, we have to heal, we have to take action to avoid that part. But by skipping forgiveness, by skipping recognizing, by skipping healing, we just go into things not knowing the outcome, not knowing that you can control your own destiny and do your thing and love somebody to the T and be with somebody and happily love them and care for them for who they are. The minute that something just pops up and gives them an issue, they resort to abnormal things that is not right in the relationships. And that comes with cheating. That comes with stepping out, doing your thing and all that stuff. Like, there's so many avenues now where you're like, you could get away with shit like that. And the crazy part is when somebody is in that situation and they step out, they only doing it because they need to feel that comfort. They need to feel somebody that got their back without thinking of the problems in the relationship. And that's even the problems that they think that is in the relationship, because they can't recognize their issues from their internal livelihood from back then, or whatever they're dealing with, they can't handle it with being in that relationship. So they need somebody to not even overpower, but like step in and comfort that feeling of necessity, of being needed or wanted. And they confuse that with thinking there's issues in the relationship. So a lot of times people can have these internal issues, these father mother issues, and bring it to relationships and then step out because they don't know how to handle the internal shit, because they seen it from back then when their moms and pops wasn't there, or the imperfection of what they was going through in their life as an adolescent, as a child, as a young adult, and never knowing how to handle these situations. So people do mistakes like these to complement what they're missing or what they think they're missing. So I went through a couple situations. Men, females can be attached to the second part about cheating. Men do the same thing too. They think that something is missing because from their viewpoint from back then comparing to now, okay, they fulfilled a certain part, but they're not going to fulfill everything for the rest of my life. So what do they have missing? They're missing affection. They're missing love. They miss giving me pussy. They miss, like, you know what I'm saying? They miss the bodies that they used to have, or whatever the case is. And when they focus on whatever that's missing, And something presents itself, what I was talking about the first episode, something presents itself like a temptation or something that is brand new that looks like everything is cool. Usually people step out. Men, women do it. Like there is so many, and now it's so many avenues like IG, there's so many avenues like Twitter, OnlyFans, people that feet finder, people, yo, is wild crazy out here. Like, and especially a date market, that's a whole different topic. But if it's something that's missing from relationships and they didn't see or learn from the core of their issues from not having a father, not having a mother, whatever the case is, and they come up to this life now and something is missing, a lot of times they're like, oh shit, this looks good. So let me go and get that. You know what I'm saying? Let me see if I can get away with that. And that comes with learning how you are from back then to now. And if you don't have the grasp of maturing yourself and doing the work and healing yourself, you're going to go through that. And you're going to be like, should I do it? Should I not do it? These seesaw emotions that we have will linger from one leverage is, okay, what you have at home is what it is compared to what's new and what's temporary. And temporary. And when you look at the temporary, a lot of times it's temporary. People don't recognize that, but in this day and age, temporary is all over. And in those two situations that I mentioned, dudes that don't have father figures that go into relationships and be toxic, dudes and women go into relationships not and having father issues, mother issues, and bring infidelity into it. Only the people that can actually help you could do so much in that situation. They can only do so much. So a lot of times the hardest thing is to put yourself into action, to know how to recognize these things, to understand and forgive yourself for it and forgive other people for it, and take the time to heal from that process. And because we as individuals need to understand ourselves more as we progress in life, we need to always be a work in progress in life. So people that was in your life, not the missing ones, because there's always going to be missing ones. If you had your moms and pops and everything was perfect and you had a great family, which I've seen people have too, we're not talking about you. And if you are happy and you're learning these situations through the outside and you have a perfect family, help the people that don't have that. Because it would be lovely to learn from a point of view where they have both moms and pops, where they have a good upbringing and everything like that. But even those people that are mentors and the mother that was the mom and pops at the same time, the people that guided you, the people that guided me, they can only do so much. You as a human, you're responsible for your own life. I tell you like this, and this is real shit. People don't give a fuck about you. You are not entitled to anything in this world. So a lot of times when people are entitled to for certain things, sometimes people are warriors. They have to fight for everything. Some people are more spoon-fed. Some people are in the middle. There's all types of people in the eyes of the Lord, dogs. So you have to be responsible for your own actions and your own progress. And you have to take the courage to step aside from your own soul, from your own body, and recognize that, okay, bro, like maybe I'm bugging. Maybe I'm tripping. Yes, we do get a lot of help from different avenues and different vessels. And I thank God for my vessels and the people that influenced me to be the way that I am today. But they can only do so much. You have to be the responsible one. You have to be the one to put yourself on track. You can learn from outside sources, but eventually you have to put the work in. So in terms of putting the work in, that's why I'm speaking on these issues and these things that I've seen. And in terms of the first episode, it opened up avenues of certain things. And this one is father's issues with relationships. So I mentioned other situations without speaking on details because I never want to do that. I mentioned viewpoints from outside looking in. I mentioned how to handle those situations. Now, again, I can only speak on my experience. So this is my story of why I think certain aspects, and this one is the aspect of relationships. So in the first episode, I was talking about, my mom's, pops, divorce, pops cheating, all that stuff. I've seen that in my life. So seeing that in my life made it almost normalized in my head of, okay, this is the everyday relationship. Okay, this is normal because you're not taught any better, especially when you're a young adult that you're living life. Again, going through the situations. I'll explain this with questions and answers. My cousin wants to do me to do that, so we're definitely doing that. We definitely breaking down that aspect. But going back to the point, we don't know any better, basically. And in my experience, I didn't know any better. So when I went into relationships when I was in college, I didn't know any better. So even if somebody treated me right, she treated me well and everything like that, I was out here hopping and whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like there was certain instances where I would have a full blown relationship and I did not give a fuck. I would be hanging out with somebody. I'll be chilling with somebody else. I would have a whole relationship when I got home. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like there is this action that I took because I didn't have guidance of this is a normal relationship. You love somebody, they love you. You learn to grow. You learn to build each other up. You learn to love each other to the end of time. I seen what I seen at home. And what I seen at home, even if you try to not repeat it subconsciously, you are going to do that because you think that that makes you feel good, that it can replace whatever happiness you're at home. But in my situation, I wanted my cake and eat it too. You know what I'm saying? I was a fan of honey buns when I was in the hood. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I wanted all that. I wanted the quarter cent juices. I wanted the honey buns, whether it was the frosting on the whatever or the regular ones. I wanted all that. You know what I'm saying? I wanted everything. I wanted to try each and every flavor of ice cream. And in terms of ice cream, the metaphor is women. Like, that is basically what I wanted to do. Because even if I had a nice relationship at home, somebody that I was with for a period of time, I still wanted to explore everything else because all I saw in my life was that abnormal relationship. And even if you try your hardest to forget about it, it's subconsciously in you. And so when everything is not perfect at the crib and everything is not perfect in your relationship at the time and you're young, I'm 18, 19, 20, 21. Bro, you're young. My mom used to say that. My mom used to be like, you're young, explore life, do your thing. Like, make sure that you get everything out your system because once you have kids, it's a wrap for you. So I took that advice and I was like, bro, but I took it in such a wrong way that I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to live life. So I'm going to have a girlfriend. Then I'm going to be out here talking shit. Then I'm going to talk to this one. Then I'm going to talk to that one. And who's going to stop me? And especially when we're young, we think we're Superman. And from the situation where I just got out of surviving single family destruction and me and my mom building to a better place and a better life, you're thinking you're the fucking man. So nothing can be done wrong. And so you're committing mistake after mistake after mistake because you're thinking that you're the man, that you came out of the situation and you're like, oh yeah, I mean, I'm the man in the house now. I can do what the fuck I want. And usually when you say you do what the fuck you want, that means you're going to fucking mess up somehow, some way. And in that situation, that exactly happened. So the person that I was going to put a ring on it, the person that I was going to commit my whole life to it, I still was doing this bullshit. And that stemmed off of seeing my household be destroyed by a person that decided to be selfish because he has issues within himself. Again, a cycle, a chain that is still to that day. Like, and when you don't know how to handle it, and I don't expect anybody to handle that at college. I don't expect anybody to handle it in a young situation. So for me, looking from outside, looking in, separating my soul from my body, even if I was in a relationship, I still was out here. Still was out here just, enjoying life. And that's why I call enjoying life because at that time I was young and I felt like I wasn't supposed to be in a relationship. I was supposed to heal from the situation that happened with me in the household. And I didn't do that. I was more of like, I want you as my girlfriend. I want you as my little boo thing. I want you as this. I want you as that. And I try to complete something. I try to build a puzzle to fulfill something. And what I needed to do was fulfill myself first before anything. But you don't learn these things until later on in life. You don't go through an enlightenment at 18. You don't do that. That's normally doesn't happen unless you're a genius, unless you're super blessed and anointed. Anointed to the point where you get that enlightenment fast. Issue is 98, 99% of the time, that doesn't happen. So I don't expect anybody to be like, oh, maybe you should do this at 18, 19. It doesn't happen that way. We all have to learn. We all have to experience life. But in that experience, I was out here cheating, being an infidel, being an asshole. You know what I'm saying? It was, and that transpired, and that caused problems and issues in the relationship. And that stemmed from now I'm trying to tell you that I'm not putting all the blame on that shit. A lot of it's my responsibility too. I want you to understand, and this is a caveat. Stop blaming your past and your past situations for your actions today. The only reason I'm doing these podcasts is to show you and teach you and enlighten you on certain things. Like, I'm not here to tell you, yo, I did this because this happened to me back then. No, I did this because it was the root of it. And I had to recognize that. So yes, most of this is my responsibility. I'm not excusing myself, and I'm not saying to the world, yo, I did this because the roots of my issues. No. Subconsciously, the roots of your issues might be the reason why you make these decisions. And we need to put in the work to understand that and fix those things. So going back to what I'm saying, that was the caveat. Caveat is, bro, don't use these past things to justify the mistakes that you made today. But we are talking about these mistakes because we need to learn from them. These are lessons. So in these lessons, that's what I learned from that relationship. I learned from that relationship that I didn't take my time. That I was out here just wanting my cake and eating it too. And what did I learn? That I was an asshole. That I did that shit because I thought I was a man and I thought I could get away with it and this, that, and the fourth. But it stems from a situation where you come from a household that happened. You don't know any better. So you start doing decisions that you don't know any better on. And you make those mistakes. And those mistakes can affect not only that person, but yourself as well. So that was one mistake that I made in my college years and everything like that. And I didn't recognize it until afterwards. And I didn't forgive myself until afterwards. I was like, bro, you know you fucked up, but yo, you got to move on. You got to move past that. You know you made your mistake. You know you was cheating. You know you was out here doing your thing, this and the fourth. You know what you was doing. So I had 1 and 2 in hand. I had 1 and 2. Issue was this. Issue was I didn't heal from that. And it goes into the second situation I was in. That situation was a little bit different because I tried to put my best effort into that. Issue was that I didn't heal from the first part. So in that situation, the second relationship that I'm talking about, I didn't show any affection because of the fact of I already did my time on the first one. I'm over here just wilding, doing my thing, this, that, and the fourth. I'm spending my whole royal oats out here, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm out here just doing whatever I wanted to do. Then when I try to go into another relationship, don't have that sauce no more. Because now it's like, it's mundane. Like, you gave all that up. And it's to a point where you try so hard and you try your hardest to be that person in a relationship, to focus so much on that you forget that you even love yourself in the first place. So if you can't you love yourself in general and you can't focus on yourself, how you gonna love somebody else? So a lot of times when I went into that second relationship, I was like, bro, I'm here, you're here, we are here together. Bro, we could coexist. We could still do the same thing that we did before we was in the relationship. We could be friends, we could be chilling. And not have that same energy I had for like 18 other women back then. And that affected it. And that was due to one, like I said, all the energy that I had before gone. And I'm trying to put this energy on one person. But it wasn't enough. Because I'm actually now used to not putting in so much energy anymore because I already put out all that shit out there. And two, now it goes into a situation where I'm looking at it now, and it also comes and stems from the situation I had when I was with my moms and pops and they was going through it. Before the divorce that my mom and pops had, like, you know, shit was cool. Like, it wasn't like rose petals spread all over the place and, you know, somebody serving you grapes and shit. It wasn't like that. But the affection was there. But when the whole cheating thing happened and everything like that, there was no affection. There was no, yo, I love you, son, I love you, da 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 da. Everything was more, yo, get out of the situation. Work hard to get out of that place in your head and in your life. Go and grow. There was, after that, it was not much affection that was shown. It was more of work hard to survive. And when you survive, then afterwards we could work on that. Work hard to get everything that you get to. Then after that, you get a hug of a congratulations. Instead of support from the inside, where it's like, it's okay, son. It's okay, Ralph. Just, you can do it. You can do it. I had to learn that myself. So if I wasn't getting any affection or support from that level, then what makes you think I was going to do that in a relationship level? And so in a lot of times when I went into that second relationship, I didn't have that learning experience to be affectionate. It was always about work, grind, work, grind, work, grind, work, grind. And that affected the other person to where they was thinking that I didn't love them. But it was more of, we need to get this money. We need to get everything right. We need to work on things. We need to, because it stemmed from that experience that I had, where after that whole situation, we had to learn how to get it from, my peoples be saying this, get it from the mud. Yo, from that point, yo, we got to grind hard to get from there and succeed and everything like that. I was so focused on that. I was so focused on building us both up financially that I forgot the whole affectionate part. And from learning from outside looking in, I realized that came from that situation where I learned to become a Superman-like person to survive those things, but not learn the affection part. We had to learn that years later, me and my mama. So imagine me and my mama fixing that stuff. So if I'm fixing that stuff for my mama, what makes you think I have it for a relationship? And again, I'm not excusing these things I'm talking about. I'm not excusing myself for my behavior. I take full responsibility for that. Because I should have been more affectionate. I should have been more involved. I should have been more into it. But I speak on these things because I know where it comes from. And now that I speak on where I know where it comes from, I know how to fix it. And I know what to do to fix it. And it takes time, and it takes healing, and it takes recognizing and forgiving yourself for that. You know what I'm saying? Those 4 things that I mentioned. Like, but going back to the situation at hand, when that second relationship faltered, like, I had to go through out of body experiences, looking in and being like, yo, where the fuck does this come from? You get tight after a while. You be like, yo, what the fuck, bro, do I be doing sometimes? And that's off of me. I can't speak on the other person, but that's off of me. And that's learning how to forgive myself, because there was a time where I was blaming myself for certain things. And I was like, I can't be doing that. what I need to do is accept responsibility for what I've done and work on those things. So I learned that comes, the falter and the lack of affection came from that time period. It affected me subconsciously, and I started doing it to that person. And I accepted it, and I told them to forgive me, just like with the first person about the cheating. Like we spoke about it years later, and we came to a conclusion that it's not going to work, even if you try to retry it. And these things, it happens. It's okay that people move on. There are lessons, there's stepping stones to things that are better. And the reason why I didn't go back and try to fix it or anything like that is because I got put into an ultimatum. And that's a whole different episode that we're going to talk about ultimatums and all that stuff. We're going to go into that. Relationships, I think that's a whole different set of episodes and everything. So, but yeah, we spoke on the first person, we spoke on it. And I felt like it wasn't the right fit for me after that. It was more of, okay, I'm glad that we put this to rest and we can learn from it. And we moved on, especially how it ended and everything like that. And we was beefing, and then we wanted some closure. So we spoke on it as grown adults. And then part one and part two happened, where you recognize and you forgive each other and you forgive yourself for it. Just needed healing at that time. The healing and the taking action should have happened in between relationship one and relationship two. Relationship two happened. There was no affection. It started a whole clusterfuck of things. And then with that clusterfuck of things became a relationship where it was a bit toxic. Now we spoke on it and we're happily in different situations and everything like that. But we recognize and we forgive each other for, and we recognize what the issues were and everything like that. Again, these situations can be fixed and can be worked on as much as possible. And we try to put that effort and the outline for me into everyday life to be better, to have always a work in progress so that we can become better people and everything like that. So the second relationship was the lack of affection that started everything. And it goes back to those issues that I had from back then, subconsciously brought it to the second relationship. And so we both did the work and recognizing the same thing. Grown adults talked about it and became better people within each other's situations and their respective situation as well. Like everybody has a learning experience with one another when you come into a relationship. You are a stepping stone to somebody. So if you can be a grown adult and talk about your issues, recognize it, forgiving each other for those situations, then you can take time to heal. Then you take action on what to do and how to do it in the future so that this can't happen again. You're fine. And that's what we need to do. We need to take action. And so in those situations, part one was the cheating part. Part two was the non-affection part. And it came from those issues from where my pops cheated on my mom's and the situation that I went through from home. And those subconsciously affected the first and second relationship that I talked about. And I had to recognize that. I had to forgive myself. I had to heal from that. And I also, and the last important part is take action and learn from my mistakes and put that into everyday life. That lesson of understanding that you went through this. You have overcome this situation. Now, don't let this affect you in your everyday life. Don't let this affect your relationships. Don't let this affect your friendships. Let this be the lesson for you that you can learn and master it so that one, you can never let this get by you again and repeat it, most importantly. And two, again, taking action to the point where when you have your future in front of you, whether it's your wife, husband, kids, anything in general, you teach them these things so that they don't repeat. the same actions, the same problems, the same stories that we went through. And I keep repeating this because I feel like this is the most important conclusion of these father issues, is to make sure that we heal, make sure that we take action to be better people, and for us not to repeat these things, and for it never to affect our future. So in conclusion, action is very important, and self-reflection is too, because separating myself from those relationships, I had to self-reflect, which I was stating about the outer body experience, where you're looking at yourself from within and recognizing these things and forgiving yourself and healing. Also, most importantly, besides taking action, I feel like this third part that we talked about in terms of the outline, healing, is very important. Everybody has their own way of healing. What I suggest is find your healing. Whatever way brings you peace, find it and learn from it and enjoy it and embrace it. Because if you are trying to fix something in your life, after taking those actions, after forgiving yourself, after recognizing it, you need healing. So find a way, whether it's therapy, whether for me it was God, whether it's talking to somebody, whether it's expressing yourself, whether you're doing art, whether you're doing a goal, whether you're fulfilling your purpose in life, whether anything, find your healing. Find something that can get you to that peace. And once you get that peace, you will understand all that is around you. And you can work on anything that you possibly can put your mind into. Whether you want to heal yourself, whether you want to fix yourself, these things are possible. Healing does that. So healing and taking action is very important. Part 1 and part 2 go hand in hand. Like I said, recognizing and forgiving yourself. Healing and taking action also go hand in hand with each other respectively. Excuse me. Damn, I can't talk today. I feel like I've been talking out my tail today. Out my ass, if you want to be more fucking direct. But taking action and healing, very important in these things. So in relationships, if you go into a relationship, make sure that you are whole. If you are not whole, recognize that and make sure that you work on yourself before you go into it. To not bring those things into relationships. And make sure you love yourself. That's the most important. Love yourself, be yourself, know yourself. Those 3 things are important. I've been saying a lot of things that are important, but these things are important. Love yourself. Most importantly, love yourself. If you can't love yourself, how can you expect to love others? And that's a whole different verse in the Bible. And I think it's a little mix up, whatever the case is. But that is facts. If you can't love yourself, how the fuck can you love others? And on that note, I'm out. Thank you for listening again. There's a lot more that we're going to cover. Relationships is a whole different branch too. So I think that this is going to be parts as well. Certain things I'm going to get asked and certain issues that's going to be brought up. That's going to be another bunch of episodes. Father issues is a whole plethora of branches that we can cover. Relationships is a whole nother thing, a whole nother monster in itself. But I think we're going to cover a whole lot of shit. I think this is going to be an amazing experience, not only for me, probably for other people in general. If this reaches out to your ears, help somebody that's in need. Be somebody's support system, because you never know how much they need you. If you are now decent in life, that you went through these things, that you healed from these things, mastered them and became a better person, if somebody's in need of that, help them. Whether it's relationships, whether it's friendships, whether it's any type of thing in general, help them. Teach them. Just like we're doing this here, it's almost like it's a therapy session and everything like that. But it's more for people to understand that these things happen, and it's a learning experience. So this is all about learning. This is all about getting to be better. So on that note, thank you for everything. God bless. And we will see what the F is next. Hopefully it's something real juicy. This has been parts and layers. I think this is the father issues. There's so many layers into it. Relationships have so many layers to it. But I want to get to a point where we could talk about everything. Thank you again. This is Infinite Soul Talk. Holla at me.